Hi, testing 1, 2, 3. Can anybody tell if I'm actually broadcasting? This is my first time setting up OBS all on my own. Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, sounds like at least you can hear my keyboard. Yeah, so I think I'm going to try to, welcome to my first stream of this year. I've streamed only twice before, helped by Stella Mazika, who actually knows what she's doing. Hi, Andy. Thanks for joining in. So yeah, the goal today was just to do kind of a laid-back sort of stream and show y'all why I've gotten really into Vue.JS recently, and why I think Vue.js is not a bad way to make HTML games. I really like idle games, and idle games are a really great teaching tool for HTML5 JavaScript because they don't need sprites, they don't need animated GIFs, you don't need to be moving a lot of 3D stuff around on the screen. You really just need some divs with some numbers in them and some buttons you can click, and that's what we're going to be building today. I haven't rehearsed this, so welcome to Trash Stream with Kate. So yeah, first of all, we'll go ahead and make a new HTML. Actually, first I'm going to grab a tissue. Yeah. First, we're going to make an index.html page. So let's see. Yeah, I only have one monitor, so this is all happening on like one monitor, so you can see all my setup stuff. Let's see. So I'm just going to copy an existing HTML file, just because who writes their own HTML files? So let's load this up. Close out a bunch of junk behind the screen. Okay. So here's an HTML page that I've used for some other stuff. For the moment, we're just going to remove everything in here. There's not a lot else going on. So you don't need to see all my Firebase junk. Let's see, so we've got something with an app. We don't need Firebase for this project. And we don't even need CSS for this project. I'm going to rename it Idle Game. Definitely not Cookie Clicker. And I should bring back the live stream just so I can see if there's any questions or comments. So feel free to ask anything you like. Again, I'm not exactly a novice at this. I've been doing this for about 10 years, but I've got a very idiosyncratic flow that's not heavily framework modern JavaScript with like lots of compilation steps. This is very bare bones vanilla HTML. I've also had a cold this week, so don't mind my horrible noises. All right, so hopefully this will give us, and again, close out some more garbage. Put this over here so I can see it easily. Okay, so now I've got idle games. Don't look at that thing in development. All right, cool. I have this exciting web page that says it's definitely not an idle game, or it's definitely not a cookie clicker clone. So now we'll start adding some behavior into it. So the first thing we need is a new JavaScript file. So this is just I'm just putting some JavaScript here, so I can say hello world, so I know when app.js is loaded, it will say hello world. So, oh, I can't find. Oh, right, because I usually put it in a JavaScript folder. New folder. I promise this will eventually get smoother as I'm less bad about this. All right. See, we've got our JavaScript loading. It says hello world. And just keep my It's okay that the Firebase credentials were on screen briefly. Firebase is actually set up so you can put that, or at least as far as I can tell, Firebase is set up so you can use all of your Firebase stuff in your bare bones client-side JavaScript, which of course people can access anyway. And the credentials don't actually do anything unless you're going live from that site. As far as I know, that's how it's been explained to me. So it is in fact not a security breach to briefly have my Firebase credentials on screen. If not, I need to nuke that project from orbit anyways, so don't worry about that. But thank you for checking. Okay, so back to what we're doing. Now I want to hook up, so I've got this. I might even say this is my app. We can see this is my app here. So this is what I love about vanilla JavaScript and vanilla HTML is I've just put some stuff on screen. It's not doing anything particularly complex, but you can see. Let's go back to this. So in addition to my app.js and index.html, I need to actually import Vue.js. So you can go to just Vue basics. So you can install Vue in lots of different ways. Vue comes with a whole framework. There's like packagers and stuff, but I'm just gonna. I like to host everything locally while I'm working on things. So I can go to this address and just save Vue. I'm just gonna harvest this right off of here and put it in my JavaScript folder. And this should at least be enough. Yep. Cool. Usually I put it in vendor, so let's change that. Isn't it fun to do a stream and you realize all the stuff that you normally do and then sounds super weird when you're trying to do it with an audience? All right, cool. I have loaded Vue. It says I am running Vue in development mode. Okay, so next we'll actually get Vue running. So a little bit about Vue. Let's see, what is the document on ready stuff? Oh, the right and bottom of my screen is getting cut off. Okay, we'll just, resizing OBS. Let's confuse OBS. All right. That's an awesome art. All right. Jesus. How do you resize things? Okay. Let's do that. Thank you, Andy, for helping me debug streaming. All right. Nope. A little smaller scale level. Okay. I think that should show everything. Yeah. Thanks so much. Okay. Yep. Enjoy. We're doing generative art today, just not the generative art expected. Okay, so now we'll go back to again. All right, I was trying to remember. I always look stuff up. I don't remember much of anything. Was it window unload? This is the function that you call in JavaScript to know that all of your JavaScript has properly loaded. So I worked in jQuery for a really long time, so I got used to writing jQuery functions like ready. No, that's not it. Windows document unload console. when in doubt, steal from another file. So we'll just go and I'll steal what I used. Windows add event listener, etc., etc. So the true secret of being a programmer is you never actually remember anything. This is super weird. Why is this not doing the thing? Am I in the wrong folder? Oh, I had a copy of app.js. There we go. Okay. So it probably would have worked before. I was just Sublime sometimes makes a copy of stuff, despite a copy of stuff when you're editing it, and it's easy to accidentally be in the wrong file when Sublime is trying to help you out. Okay. All right. Sorry. This is such a trash file of this stream. Thanks for bearing with me. Okay, we're going to do Vue now. So now we'll create a Vue instance. So my app. So viewers who might have used React will note, like when you start up React, you have to do like a whole bunch of paperwork and framework stuff just to get something running. Vue is not like that. Vue you can just use as a library. So you don't have to make a Vue app. You can just make your app and then add like a little bit of Vue into it. So Vue is an object, and it takes an element to tell you where it's going to store stuff. So you're basically handing control of an HTML element over to Vue, and then Vue is going to keep that synchronized with some data structure. So I'm going to, what am I doing? Right, I was looking up which element it is. Okay, main app. So if I say your element is main app, I think I need a hashtag there, and then this is where a lot of the work gets done, is I have a template. Oh, yep, and here we go. This is the first thing about Vue is Vue is making elements within elements within elements, and each one has to have a top level one. So I'm going to make a top level div here. I've heard divs are actually not as good as things like section now. They said there's some accessibility issues, things that are more, semantic are useful. But here we go. All right, see, it's put hello world on screen. That's not super exciting, like we just did that with HTML anyway, but where Vue really shines is if you have some sort of data structure. So I'll say let data equals then I can change this template so then I need to give Vue access to this data. So what I've done here is I've constructed some data, and then in Vue, I'm going to give it access to that data. So I'm going to say, hey Vue, your data is that data object. And then I can use that data in this template. So I can say, and hopefully this will, property, my name, this is when I have to look stuff up. Introduction, Vue, data, my name, let's see. Give it data, get access to data. Please react. See, I thought I was doing so well with this. I should have had like the Martha Stewart style pre-baked one over in the corner. Again, let's look at my previous stuff. Just gonna continue to harvest things out of existing stuff. So data, well, let's just say what is going wrong here? Oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, now it has access to my name and the tutorial. Okay, so here we see Vue actually doing what Vue is supposed to do, which is you have some data structure here, so data, and it's just a JavaScript object. It's got a bunch of properties, and then you can use those properties to dynamically update basically a template. I don't know if y'all know this, but you can do backticks for backticks for strings in JavaScript. Let you have multi-line stuff, so you can then do much nicer layouts like this. And now I'll show you one of the big things about Vue, which is as you change this data structure, the template that you've made is going to automatically update whenever it needs to. You don't have to know when it's going to update. You can just change that data, and if it recognizes that it needs to change the data, then it'll change the data. So I can make a button here. So this is a button. Say that this button has been clicked some number of times. So if I have 0, this button has been clicked 0 times. It's not very exciting, so let's make it interactive. If you're familiar with jQuery, you know that jQuery has a whole bunch of different ways to apply listeners to things. Usually you're splitting stuff between your HTML, like where you're creating the button, and then you're adding click handlers. Here you just do at click. I say number plus plus. You can actually put live JavaScript in here on this click handler. So this is a click handler saying increase number. And look at that. So we now have the world's worst idle game. So this is number go up, the idle game. You can just tell how many times you've clicked. So that's not super exciting just yet. So yeah. Now all right, so now we can start the clock and say, okay, how long is it, if the clock wasn't already started, how long is it going to take us to make a cookie clicker emoji game? So I've done this, I think, twice before, so let's see if I can do it again. I'll continue to make the template nice. I'll give it an H3 title. Hands are not working today, all right. And let's see, might want to have a div that is cookies, and then in handlebar notation, this is or mustache notation, I think this is what this is called. You can do the number of cookies. And I'll give you a button. And because this is cookie clicker, the button should actually be shaped like a cookie, so we'll got cookies, there we go. So every time you click this cookie button, you'll get another cookie. All right, great, we have cookie clicker running, so that's pretty exciting. Well, that's not all a cookie clicker. Cookie clicker also has things that you can buy. So I might also have cookies and pointers. So how many pointers do I have? I start off with 0 pointers. And so I can have this cookie clicking button, but I can also have pointers. So this is how many pointers I've got. And I want a button so that I can buy more pointers. Really, is there no like arrow, just plain old arrow pointing? An emoji? All right, well, these are our cookie clickers now. This is heart with an arrow in it. This is definitely not cookie clicker. So now I can buy more pointers. And I want to say, now we need a core loop. So I want to say every few seconds, the number of pointers that you have is going to pay into your cookies. So one of the things that Vue has is there's this quite comprehensive event loop. I'm just going to switch over, make sure I'm not missing anything that people are asking. Okay, and feel free to, again, make requests or ask questions or tell me that the stream is going wrong or that the sound is off or whatever. Yeah, so back to Vue. Vue has a fairly comprehensive set of hooks that you can hook into of, when I run Vue and I say, this is your template, it says, okay, on making that template, on adding that to the thing, on anything getting updated, like there's a whole bunch of different change things that can happen, but one of them is mounted. So mounted takes a function, and all that happens here is a query. This would be like after all. So yeah, the whole UI was made. So this is a good place to put things that you just need to have happen. So I can do a set interval. So set interval is a basic JavaScript command that lets you run functions on a loop. So I'm going to do some arrow notation here and just say console.plug loop. Just count the number of loops I've got. This is an idle game, so I'll say it needs to update 10 times per second. So yeah, it is now updating every n seconds. So that's not very exciting as far as an idle game. We don't actually just want it to say stuff. We want it to start adding cookies. So we're going to add cookies. So I could say, for example, this.cookies. So every frame, I want you to add one cookie. So the way that Vue accesses data, so you have this data object. Inside the template, you don't have to use this. It just knows that if you're referring to a variable in here, that it should look it up in data. However, once you're in these functions, now you're in basic JavaScript, and you need to say this.cookies, and then this is basically shorthand for go to this data and do something to it. So this should add some cookies. So now you can see my cookies going up. So now we have, what was it? What was the first incremental game? Progress Quest. So now we have Progress Quest where you can get cookies forever. But that's not what we want. We want cookies to happen when you click or when you've bought cursors. So now I can say this.cookies plus equals this.cursors times, and I can say, this.pointers. Let's say, so I want you to give me one cookie every n seconds, or let's say 2 cookies every 10 times per second. What kind of cookies are we making? We are currently making emoji cookies, but if I have time at the end of the stream, I'll show you how to actually make cookies that are saved on your computer. So if I have time, I'll make HTML cookies that let you persist a saved game, just like Cookie Clicker did. So yeah, cookies times pointers times this pointer rate. And now you can see we're increasing cookies. But of course, you don't really want floating point cookies. You want whole cookies. Cookies shouldn't crumble like that. And so I will say, instead of cookies, cookies dot floor cookies. All right, cool. So now we have integerial cookies. So now we're making integerial cookies. All right, but pointers should not be free. Pointers should cost some cookies. So how do we say you can only have the pointer button or the buy pointer button if you have enough money to make it? So I'm going to say pointer cost. So each pointer costs 5 cookies. And I only want to show this button if you have enough money to actually click on it. Pointers. So when you click on pointers, or when you click on buy pointer, I want you to get a pointer, but I also want you to lose that number of cookies. So I'm going to change this into a function. So now I have a methods section. And this is just a lookup table of all the functions you might want to call from inside of your Vue. So one of these is buy. It's a function. It takes an ID of something. So this is like buy a pointer. Just tell myself that I bought that thing. At the moment, we'll just say pointers. At the moment, the only thing to buy is pointers. We're going to make this general purpose in a moment. So you buy a pointer. This dot cookies. Oh, so this gets me into trouble all the time, not putting this in front of stuff in the methods. So this cookies minus equals this dot pointer cost. All right. So this should allow me to buy cookies and see, or buy pointers and see my cookies go down. Yeah, and I can quickly get into negative cookies. So we don't want negative cookies. That's not the point of Cookie Clicker. I should only be able to buy stuff that I can afford. So now we can learn about turning stuff on and off in Vue. So I'm going to say v-if. This allows Vue to set conditions on whether or not things appear. So I can say, I only want this button to appear if I have enough cookies to afford this. So cookies is greater than or equal to this dot pointer cost. Oops, and I don't need this up there. All right, we have no way to buy pointers because we don't have enough cookies. But now I do. Oop. So yeah, this is a very basic cookie clicker. So now the point of, or one of my favorite things about Cookie Clicker is the way that the world just keeps expanding and expanding. Spoilers for Cookie Clickers, you eventually buy grannies and farms and interstellar mining operations and all sorts of stuff that increase your amount of cookies that you can have. So I can create a little bit more sophisticated database down here to maintain my world state. So I might want to say, no, cookie debt. We can sell cookie futures, maybe. So here are all my resources. And for each source, let's say I've got pointer, which is icon, this pointer cost in cookies is 5. The rate is 0.2. This is how many cookies you get. Then maybe I also want, so now I want to have some other things. Let's see. I want grannies. So there's a granny. Grannies cost 50, and they make 2 cookies. Wow, my laptop is really not enjoying streaming. I don't know if you can hear this, but it sounds like an airplane. And farms. That's a good farm icon. Tractor is good enough. Oh, I should actually put these in quotation marks. Fun fact, emojis are not valid JavaScript. You cannot use emojis in JavaScript variable names, which is totally bull. They're valid ASCII, so they should be, or like, yeah, you should be able to have a variable name that is just like tractor emoji. Lies in standards bureaus. So farms, and we'll do factories, and that should be enough for our game for the moment. Oh, there we go. There's a good factory. All right, so let's see. Grannies cost 50, and they make 2. Farms make 20, and they cost, I don't know, 150, and factories cost 500. This is not great. This is not beautifully tuned here. Okay, so now now I've got a whole bunch of resources, and then I want to have some UI for each of these. So I could copy and paste this, but copy and pasting stuff is bad in code. We want to just have a loop. We want a loop to go through all of these resources and keep the resources, like make the UI for those resources. So I'm going to say, so Vue actually has a way to do loops. It's actually really nice. It almost feels kind of like a list comprehension. So I can say v.for, and I could say resource in resources. So that's going to go through all of those resources I have, as long as I spelled it correctly. And I could say for each one of those, I want you to create a div. At the moment, we won't do anything exciting with this. We'll just say, for that resource, I want you to put that resource icon. All right, there we go. Oops, I have not a number cookies. Oh, right, because I still have my for loop going. Let's turn that off for a moment. Okay, cool. I have 0 cookies, and I have a whole bunch of other stuff. And maybe I want to say how many of each of these I have. So resource icon, and I want to say, oh, and then for each one of these, I want to say how many I have. Count 0. All right, cool. So I have 0 of everything. So I want resource, and then resource.count. All right. This is matching this is missing the expansion of cookie clicker. So maybe I only want to show those resources. So if only show that there are those resources once you get more than one of them. Wait, oh, that's not going to work because then I won't be able to. Let's leave this off for the moment. What I want is for you to only see those resources once you have the ability to buy them. So, okay. Got some of our resources, we got that icon. Okay, now we want our button back. And on clicking that, I want you to buy, and I can say resource, not ID. So this will give me access to that ID. So I can say buy that thing. Just make sure that that shows properly. Yeah, okay, so I see I can buy a pointer, etc. I can buy the farm. All right, so now we have, all right, sorry, I'm a little groggy. Okay, so we have a way to buy things, we have a way to show how many things we have. Let's actually make these things get bought again. Let's see, so instead of buying pointers, I want to buy resource, ID, yep, just increase that resource ID. Oh, increase the count of that resource ID. And then decrease my cookies. Added pointer of undefined. Oh, resources, there we go. At 33. Oh, resources. Cool. And then we'll turn back on that only show this button if I can afford it. Just gonna restructure this so it's a little more visible. Okay, so at click ID. Okay, can't buy anything until I get this. And now I can do another for loop and say in this interval for each one of my resources. I always forget what the way to iterate through resources is. Yeah. So I'm getting all the keys from my resources, and for key in keys, I'm going to add the number of cookies. So for each tick, for each resource, add the number of cookies that makes times the number of resources that I have. So let's see if this will work. Oh, not 51. The stack cookies. Oh, right. It's an index. There are easier ways to do JavaScript for loops. I'm just forgetting what they are at the moment. Okay, so you can see now I've got my stuff happening. I can buy lots of pointers. Then eventually I should be able to buy a farm. Oop, I can buy a granny, buy some more grannies, lots of grannies. Now I can buy a farm. Okay, so we got some cookie clicker going. But this is missing one of the most important things about idle games, which is that things get more expensive. So now I can say, each time you buy something, I also want you to increase the cost. So maybe in this button, I'll tell you how much these things cost. So where's my button? So I can say, buy that thing for how many cookies? So I can buy that pointer for 5 cookies, and it'll continue to cost exactly 5 cookies. I'm going to start us off with 1,000 cookies just so we can test things. Okay, so we start off with 1,000 cookies. So let's increase that resource cost because we are jerks like that. So every time you buy something, I want you to increase this resource cost. Actually, I'm going to say what is the term? Oh, inflation. So every time you buy something, it costs a little bit more. So the cookie cost, or the resource cost, is now going to be this times inflation. Aha! Now we've seen that grannies start getting very expensive. Such expensive grannies. Okay, so now we've actually got some pretty decent cookie clicking. What else are we missing? What are we missing from this? Oh, maybe we want to show how many of each thing you have. So instead of just showing that you have one farm, I want to show how many farms you have. And with that we can do, let's see, we can make a method. Maybe we'll just do this for cookies. say display cookies. So I want you to draw a line of all the cookies that I have. There's something called computed in Vue, not computer as I always type. I could say that display cookies is a function, and that's write a very ugly function here. For var I is equal to 0, I is this thing. All right, so this is how many cookies I have. So what computed does in Vue is that it computes something and then can use it as a variable. Anytime that variable should update, you don't have to control whether that variable updates, it's just going to automatically update it for you. So display cookies is going to be something that you can access anywhere. It's a string of how many, like showing how many cookies you have. But every time your cookie count changes, that's going to change too. Back to one cookie. So yeah, let's see what this does. Oh, function statements require a function name. That's odd. What did I do wrong? Oh, computer is not a function. It is an object of functions. All right, cool. Nope. Oh, cookies is not an array. There we go. Now it's showing me how many cookies I have. So isn't that exciting? So I can actually see my cookies go up. And you could do this with the number of grannies or what have you. This is going to get a little silly pretty quickly, so I'm actually going to turn off display cookies. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty much cookie clicker speedrun. Unless you can think of anything else that I'm missing from the sort of essential idle games thing, I'll just show you how to save user data so you can have persistent cookies. Currently, every time I reload this, I have to restart. So let's say I'll have a save button. Actually, we'll not even save, we'll just automatically save without asking people's permissions, and this will just be a GDPR nightmare. So every time, every time we buy something, every time our cookies go up or we buy something, let's just say we'll do this in the set interval loop. So every time the interval happens, we're going to save. I always forget how to do local storage. So HTML5 has something called local storage, which is some amount of megabytes where you can save whatever you want to in a cookie. Right, this is local storage set item. So we can set the item, my data, and then we need a string to save. So JSON say JSON.stringify. What's this stuff? Data is how you get like all of the data for this. Yep. Okay. So here's all the data. We're just going to go ahead and save all of the data. So all the data is saved. We should be able to look at application, local storage, nope, session storage. Oh, here we go, my cookie data. So there's all of our data. If I reload, all of our data is still there. It's just not getting used for anything, so we should be able to load our saved game. So maybe when I have mounted this, I want to go ahead and like load our saved game. Fortunately, like saving and loading from local storage is essentially free. Like it costs practically nothing, so you don't have to worry about like doing a bunch of read-write stuff. So I'm going to say, unless this is equal to null, I want you to load this. First, just tell me what it is. Yep, it's got a bunch of data. Don't mind me, I'm just doing some like HTML fussing here. What was I doing? Oh, right, loading save game. So local storage, get item. Let's see if I can just set the data to this. This might not work. It might be a little, Java, like Vue is trying to watch all the data and see what happens. So for each one of these things, Vue essentially has watchers on it, so it can like know when the pointer icon has gone up. But if you replace all that with a custom database object, it might get too confused. Make this into one big object instead, so I can just talk explicitly about game data. All right, so save data, all that. I just have to change a bunch of stuff. This is what happens when I don't plan out my demos. Data resources. 40. Somewhere, oh, stop game data.resources. Okay, cool. We're back to min spec. Okay, so now let's try loading our game data again. Oh yeah, look, I've got 47 cookies. If I reload this, okay, we now have full cookie clickers, so you can like buy all your stuff, create idle games, turn UI on and off. Yeah, so I'm gonna probably say that this is the stream. We managed it in 1 hour with a lot of me faffing about and trying to figure out how to stream properly. So that was an idle game speedrun. Do you have any questions? Do the people on stream, if there's anybody still on stream, have any questions about how to use Vue? before I call this at 11. Okay, I think I'm going to declare that to be the end of stream. Hopefully my subsequent streams will be a little bit smoother, but thanks y'all for bearing with me and seeing how to use Vue. Again, it's not super difficult. Um, it You can do Vue with TypeScript and lots of frameworks and auto packers and stuff like that, and I don't like any of those. I got away from having to compile things in the early 2000s, and I never want to have to compile things again. So I will always just um, keep it in like a little, I'll just import it and then use it like a library. So it doesn't have to be a huge part of your thing. It plays well with others. It's not a commitment. So yeah, Vue has been really great to me so far. Hopefully it will remain so. All right, thanks all for joining the stream, and hope you enjoy making your own idle game someday.